Today was a tremendous success for the people of Georgia and for the administration of the election. First off, I do want to give a shout out to one of our counties. As you saw probably at 7:02, all of a sudden there was results coming in, and that was Floyd County up in Rome. So we do want to give them a shout out because what we have in Georgia, it's a good competition. It's a race to the top. You know, each of those counties are just trying to outperform the other one, and so that 7:02 will be a tough record to beat. But we're just really excited about all the hard work that the counties have done. And I'm also really, really excited and very grateful for the work that our team has put into it. As you know, we have about 20 people in our team. North Carolina, I understand, has 72 in their elections office. So you think about what we can accomplish with those 20 folks. It's absolutely amazing. And this is actually our first election using Jarvis. And that's our new election management system, voter registration system. And it's worked really fantastic. I couldn't be more pleased with the results, but also the work and effort really to get it standing up so quickly. So we're looking forward to seeing that utilized not just for this year, for the May primary, November, but for the next, decade to come, because it's a system that you can actually continue to improve on it as there's additional needs or wants that we get from both state law or voter preferences on how we vote. I want to also let everyone know that your vote is secure, and election security has been my top concern from day one. And since 2020, some of the things that we've improved on, we think, I strongly believe, is number one, we have photo ID for absentee voting. And by doing that, we have, I believe, have elevated the security, but also the confidence in that process. So voters in Georgia can choose how they want to vote, no excuse absentee voting, 17 days of early voting, or election day. We had good turnout today. Back last Tuesday, we had 50,000 people show up during the early voting cycle. That was our big day for the week. And so what we've seen so far is, the results are coming in, and, we'll get those all posted. But I think it's pretty safe to see that in this state of Georgia, that President Biden will be carrying the Democrat nomination, and looks like former President Trump will be carrying the Republican state of Georgia. So it's looks like it'll be those two from the state of Georgia, and looks like they both have secured their delegate counts today. So that's the politics of it. Our job is to make sure we have fair, honest elections, so I don't go into the politics too much. But that's where we are right now. I guess now, if anyone had any questions, just kind of put your hand up and let me see who you are. Yes, sir.
I spoke with the Paulding County election supervisor, and she was concerned about the post office being slow in delivering and not being able to get the precinct cards out to notify voters of the changes, and also with absentee ballot applications not coming in quickly. That this could be a problem if it's still, an issue in May, in the May primary, and in November. Is that something you've heard from election officials?
I've actually heard it from, a couple voters, what happened to that. That's a federal issue, though. That's the United States Postal Service. That's those folks up in D.C. And I know you fuss about D.C. If you want to fuss about them, I can give you that 1-800 number. But here in Georgia, we've got our act together. And I can't control the feds. What we can do is work hard to make sure in Georgia we have safe, secure, honest, fair, accurate elections, and get those results posted quickly for y'all.
Some of the numbers that we started to see, how many people came out early and today, and I know you had talked about preparing for 6 million voters again in November. How do we prepare in the meantime?
Well, the next test, run up to that will be the May primaries. Those will be the partisan primaries for state house, state senate, congressional seats, also county commissioners, and other things. Fulton County, you actually vote for your county surveyor. Down in Glenn County, they have the water and sewer board. So there'll be those races like that, but that'll just be a higher participation. So today, right now, we're at about 11 to 12%, depends if you're saying total registered voters or total active voters. Obviously, when we come into the next race, which will be the primaries in May, that'll probably be, 1/3, but I don't really do the prediction game too much, but we know that in November, it'll be just like 2020, big numbers coming out, so we prepare the counties for that.
Mr. Secretary, can you talk about getting Jarvis ready for the rollout for all 159 counties. I know the last election was for municipals, but doing it statewide.
Yeah, but when we did the municipals, we had about 139 counties in that range, and now we're up to the full load of 159 counties. So all the counties are fully utilizing Jarvis. And so it's really allowed us to be uniform throughout the entire state. It helps us on training, also helps the counties, because we know what all the issues could be, and any question one has, maybe the other one has. It's just it makes us more efficient. So that's a good process, and the counties have just responded favorably and have done a great job with it. Well, that being it, did you have one more?
I know there are a lot of bills in the House and the Senate that you have thrown your support behind when it comes to elections. Is there anything that you really feel like you want to see passed in order to help when it comes to November?
Well, if you talk to the average Georgian, you know what their number one concern is? After it's, I think that people are worried about inflation, but number one is actually the out-of-control border situation we have. And what fills right in there that actually comes into our wheelhouse is non-citizen voting. People are concerned about that. In fact, what's really interesting, many people aren't aware of that, so I'll mention it here. But the New Georgia Project, which was founded by Stacey Abrams and other organizations, are suing us right now to stop us from doing citizenship verification before we put people on the voter rolls. And if people get on the voter rolls that are not citizens, then they'll end up being voters at some point. And I want to make sure that only American citizens are voting in our elections. And that's why I've asked the General Assembly to pass a constitutional amendment that only American citizens should vote. But also that's why I'm going to take that lawsuit and we're going to fight that all the way to the Supreme Court to make sure that your priceless franchise to vote as an American citizen is not diminished by non-citizen voting. Number two, it's interesting, but the federal government has a prohibition against voting against foreign funding of federal elections. But in the state of Georgia, there's no prohibition. And so I've asked the General Assembly, and it looks like it's moving through both chambers to stop foreign funding of state elections here in Georgia. We think that's really key. And then kind of following along with that, if you're a lobbyist working or a consultant working for some foreign entity like Iran, China, Korea, Russia, but a foreign entity, we believe that you should have to register and identify who you are working for. We think in the interest of transparency, we think that's a good thing. And so that's what voters' number one concern is. With this out-of-control border situation, people want to make sure that only American citizens are voting. And the reason that court case is so important is because when I stood before you after 2020 and also 2022, I could tell you, non-Americans, non-citizens did not vote. The only person that voted in these elections were American citizens. And that gives voters confidence that they know that American elections in Georgia are decided by American citizens, and that's the way it should be.
Has there been any evidence of non-citizen voting within Georgia?
No, and that's a good thing because we have one of the strongest, robust citizenship verifications. Because we utilize the Department of Driver Services, they actually do a robust citizen check. We are actually a real ID compliant state, and we've been that since 2012. And by doing that, we make sure that we don't have non-citizens on the voter rolls. So if there's a question about citizenship, then they actually go back, to that potential person wants registration or ask for registration. And then we can also check it against the SAVE database. We've actually done a full scrub, and we reported about 18 months ago, and we identified at that point 1,600 people approximately 1,600 that tried to register that we could not verify citizenship. So we just continue trying, whittle that list down to make sure, have they changed their, status now? Have they actually become naturalized and become an American citizen? By doing that, that's why I can stand before you and say non-citizens are not voting in the state of Georgia. And I think that's really important.
But if there's already systems in place, what does this constitutional amendment add?
Because the Constitution of Georgia says that all American citizens can vote. It does not talk about non-citizens. And that's why there's lawsuits from the people for the Coalition for the People's Agenda and the New Georgia Project and other left-wing organizations are pushing us to not being able to do citizenship verification. So non-citizens could actually put on, if we use their language that they're trying to propose, as long as someone just says, hey, I'm an American citizen, we're supposed to put them on. No, I believe that you have to have verification. Verification builds trust. Without verification, you won't have trust. And when you have a polarized society, if you can't build trust, you really kind of start pulling society apart. We have to look at ways we can pull together with common sense. That's why we have photo ID for all forms of voting. But that's also why we have 17 days early voting, 3 weeks, 2 Saturdays, plus Election Day. Tell the counties, we're going to work with you to keep those lines shorter than 1 hour on Election Day, so you have a great voter experience. Everything we've done as appropriate guardrails of accessibility with security. We have elections that trust, and that's why UGA, when they did a poll after the 2022 election, over 90% trusted the results they had in Georgia. Thank you, ma'am.
Do you plan to publicly support a presidential nominee?
No, I don't endorse, but I want to make sure that my #1 goal is to make sure we're working on the mechanics of the elections so people have high confidence at the end of the day. Because we're going to actually do additional audits. In fact, I didn't mention this, but today we also did 3 parallel monitoring audits of different counties. I was there for one of them, along with, there's some news people there recording what was going on. That's the first time it's been done in America that we're aware of, but obviously the first time in Georgia. It's parallel monitoring, so we can verify that the machines have not been changed. We obviously do the LNA testing early on to verify that the machines are recording all votes accurately, but this is parallel monitoring during election. So we did that every week during the first 3 weeks of early voting, and then today we picked 3 counties. We brought in, a machine, and we just ran test ballots against the existing system we had from the state, and we could then verify the results, that there was no change in votes, so you knew that we had accurate elections. So we're doing that, and then after the election, we will do post-election audits, particularly for November. We'll be doing a lot of additional post-election audits, obviously at least 1 statewide race, and I believe this year we'll only have 1, which will be the presidential, but then other races to give voters confidence in that results. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate you. It's going to be a long night.